It's Saturday morning and it's National Coffee Day. A holiday that I love to celebrate every day of the year. I will be making a pour over of a delicious locally roasted coffee from Oak and Crow later on in this episode. But right now what I'm making is a gluten-free vegan birthday cake. It's Paisley's 4th birthday today. So I wanted to show you how simple it is to make a vegan and gluten-free cake, especially when there's cake mixes that you can buy in the store. So let's get going. What I've done so far is I bought 3 vanilla cake mixes. These are gluten-free. If you look at the ingredients for most of the cake mixes out there, they're already vegan. Some of them might contain milk, but for the most part, they don't. And so for the most part, they're vegan. And no, I don't normally cook with my hat on, but it's sort of something that I'm kind of used to seeing myself in on these videos, so I decided to wear my hat and my skeptical vegan apron while making this birthday cake. Actually, I'm making 3 birthday cakes. So I bought the cake mix and got those out of the box. I have this Simple Mills frosting, which is organic and delicious, very smooth and creamy. Hopefully my cake will have time to cool off before the party so I can frost it properly. And I have a vanilla and a chocolate. So I'm going to try to do something decorative on the top. Not sure about that yet. But what I have in this bowl right now, which you won't be able to see because of course it'll spill, are the wet ingredients, which includes a 1/4 cup each of organic applesauce to replace the eggs. So again, the recipe on the box says 1 egg and 2/3 a cup of milk. So instead of eggs and milk, because this is going to be vegan, I've used applesauce, again a 1/4 cup of organic applesauce per egg, mixed in with 2/3 cup vanilla, in this case almond milk. So I did 2/3 cup 3 times over because of the 3 cake mixes. So there's my wet ingredients, they're started. Now the instructions say to use an electric hand blender or mixer. So I'm going to do that, but for the first stir, I'm just actually going to whisk it. They recommend that you sort of stir in some of the cake mix before you hit it with the blender. So I'm going to grab some scissors to open up one of these bags, and we'll see how it looks. And my water is boiling for my coffee, so I'll be able to do that in a second too. All right, so here we go. So if there's people watching, welcome, hello. Eric Lindstrom, Skeptical Vegan. Making a gluten-free vegan birthday cake for my daughter's 4th birthday today. Paisley's turning 4. And I thought I would broadcast a little bit of it. And also it's National Coffee Day, so I'm going to be making coffee. And I want you to watch all of the videos on this channel. So there's a playlist for the Skeptical Vegan, which are the full episodes. There's a playlist for these live broadcasts. And then there's a playlist for the original show, Give Peas a Chance, featuring Claire Peters. Definitely want to watch those episodes. Fantastic whole foods, plant-based recipes for the whole family to enjoy. So here we go. This is the dry mix from the cake mix, and I'm stirring it or whisking it into my wet ingredients just to see how it incorporates. Obviously, it's not unlike making, when we made this morning, our gluten-free vegan pancakes. That's what we had for breakfast. We use the same exact substitutions, of course. When the pancake mix asks for eggs, we use applesauce. It's amazing to me how you don't taste the apples. You really don't. I mean, the cake mix or the pancake mix itself tastes so vanilla-esque that you don't really even notice you're using applesauce. And if you're out of applesauce, pro tip, you can squirt in one of those pouches that the kids walk around the house and stick out of their mouth. So here we go. This is actually whisking really well. I might even, oh boy, I might forego the electric mixer. We'll see how thick this gets. I want to make sure, of course, we don't have any lumps in this, but I was able to fully incorporate, well, to there, 1 whole bag of the dry mix in preparation for the oven. It's been preheated to 375. I'll lower that to 350 per the cake instructions. So I hope you're having a really nice National Coffee Day as I make these gluten-free vegan cakes, and I'm about to make some coffee in my Chemex. So let me get that ready. I'll set this aside for a minute and get my coffee ready. So I make my coffee in a pour over every morning. It's one of those things where I will eventually probably once again get a actual coffee maker, so I don't have to do the hand pour. But these turn out better. I mean, these are better cups of coffee. But also, quite honestly, it makes me stop for at least 5 minutes out of my day to stop and brew a cup of coffee. So what I do is I get this filter, this Chemex filter, a little bit warmed up and watered so that you don't taste so much filter. This is exciting right here. Ideally, when you're making a pour over with a Chemex, you're using a scale. That's the pro way of doing it. I make this every morning, so I kind of got my measurements figured out. And to close one of those windows. The blinds were rattling. Okay, so now we add the right amount of coffee in the filter. And again, this is an Oak and Crow local coffee made by a vegan friend of mine, Jacob. So if you have a chance here in Ithaca to pick up some Oak and Crow or ask Jacob to send you some, I'm sure he'd be happy to. Okay, retying my apron. Okay, so we have the coffee and the filter, and our water had just boiled, so it's ready to pour over the grounds, the fresh ground coffee. And again, if you're using a scale, at this point, the scale will tell you that's the first round of water you want to add to your Chemex, and then you wait for the coffee to bloom. It sort of puffs up with the hot water, the just off boil water, and you can see that it's draining down here. And so again, this is a moment that I take every morning for myself and sit here and to make my pour over as if I'm a fancy hipster barista working in Brooklyn, but I'm not. Okay, so this has to drain, filter, turn into coffee on its own time. And so I'm going to set this aside now and continue brewing this as I blend in another bag of the mix. So as expected, this is getting a lot thicker. Let's open another bag. So yeah, by having available these pre-measured, pre-made, off-the-shelf, over-the-counter, gluten-free vegan cake mixes, all you have to do is read the instruction, or read the ingredients to make sure it is in fact vegan. It will say contains milk or egg, which would probably be the two ingredients, assuming meat is not going to be included in your normal cake. And if it doesn't contain any milk or eggs, you're good to go. As you look at the recipe or instructions on how to make it, simply replace the eggs with applesauce, smashed up banana, or a flax meal. You know, there's a lot of different, you can look online, just look for egg substitutes, and all of them will work. I use the flax meal more for the savory ingredients or the savory recipes, if I'm making like a pizza crust or something. But for a cake like this, again, you cannot go wrong with a applesauce replacement for your eggs. So it's getting pretty thick. I'm going to try to hand mix this second batch in, but I do believe I'm going to have to use the hand mixer for my third bag because it's becoming a workout. And trust me, I need a workout. So here you can see, maybe at some point I'll be able to tip it as it gets thicker, but it's getting to be a really beautiful consistency already. Tastes delicious. You could put at this stage a little more vanilla in if you want it to give it a little more vanilla flavor. You can actually add other natural flavors and colors at this point. I know that you could put just a little touch of beet juice, believe it or not. That's used sometimes for a red color, so we can turn this cake pink, which I'm sure Paisley would love, but I don't have any beet juice. You know, obviously trying to avoid, if possible, any of the store-bought food coloring, which contains nasty ingredients for the most part, and sometimes bugs. So look at that. This is turning out really good. Very happy with that. So I am going to go for it. Save electricity. So who knows? I might just, making this one cake, I might have just saved a whale. So this is the third bag of the mix, mixed in with the wet ingredients. Obviously, if this got a little bit too thick at this point, I could just stir in another like quarter cup of soy milk or almond milk. I think I used the vanilla almond milk for this. So here's the downside of hand mixing, is the whisk itself can't handle it. But looking good, huh? Oh my gosh, how much do you want to lick the batter? How much do you want to lick the batter? You want to lick the bowls? You want to lick the whisk? Come on over. Come on over before I turn this into a cake. Yeah, this actually looks identical to the mix that we used this morning for our pancakes. Again, gluten-free vegan. Add a little bit of Earth Balance butter on top if you want, and some local maple syrup. And you got a nice little breakfast for the kids. We made tater tots this morning in the air fryer because we normally do on the weekends. All right, let's just see what happens here. This is it. This is the end of the 3 cake mixes. From here, we should be able to, oh, it's getting really thick. You can see, can I incorporate into this liquid the last bag of dry ingredients? Let's see, seems to be kind of working. Definitely the right consistency, so I got all the ingredients correct. Yeah, I'm really thinking I'm going to need to use the electric mixer at this point, because there's a lot of powdered remnants at the bottom of this bowl, obviously stuck inside this whisk. But then again, in colonial days, they didn't have an electric hand mixer, did they? No, they didn't. They did everything by hand. So maybe I can. No, I don't want to. I don't want to spoil the 4-year-old's birthday party because I'm too lazy to clean the mixers. Okay, look at that. That's good. All right, I'm gonna get the mixers. Tastes delicious. All right, so no matter what, at this point we have our wet ingredients almost all the way there. And the last blend here, we'll add a little bit of air, might make it a little puffy, but also, of course, we'll be sure to incorporate all those ingredients. Let that do its thing while I finish up the coffee. Could be the last pour, but I think there's one more after this. So, to prepare my cake pans. I'm using a glass Pyrex for this. I plan to make one square, one small square, one larger rectangle, and somehow turn it into a number 4 in post-production. But for now, what I need to do is take the... Oh, I just realized I completely forgot an ingredient. This might turn out better if I put the butter in. Okay, well, glad I remembered that when I remembered it. So I had some Earth Balance sticks softening. They're ready to go. So I'll blend that in. That acts like the oil, obviously giving it also an incredible buttery flavor. So this, all 3 of these called for about 8 tablespoons of softened butter. So the other softened butter is this one, that's warm. So let me blend all of this in here. And meanwhile, I was going to butter these pans, which I'll do in a second, but finish the coffee up. This is the last of the hot water. I'll put this here in case you can see it draining. When that's done, the coffee's done. All right, so let's get the rest of this butter incorporated. So yeah, I guess that was the 3rd ingredient on the list of ingredients on the package that could come into question for vegans is the butter. So luckily there's a lot of amazing vegan butters out there. We happen to use Earth Balance. Comes in both the tub, the spreadable soft tub, as well as sticks. We use the sticks for baking. You can see the consistency didn't change all that much. Flavor didn't either, but there you go. Back in business. Okay, let me get my coffee poured so I can enjoy that while we're putting the cakes together. So what I do is I take the filter out and decant the majority of this for later. Over here, take my Mind Your P's and Q's coffee mug, and there we go. National Coffee Day. Delicious pour over. Cheers. Oh God, such medicine. Okay, so now we have, as I said, a stick of butter, which was that final ingredient for both those cake mixes. We'll just take this stick and butter the bottom liberally. We want to make sure we got, plenty of coverage. This one as well, because I'm going to need these to come out of the glass pretty easily. So you get those corners, and now what I can do is go back in. Well, maybe I don't even need to. I was going to say go back in with a paper towel to make sure we hit all of the edges and corners, but it looks pretty good. The main thing is wanting it to get freed from those deep corners, not so much the edges, but there's plenty of butter on there, maybe too much. We shall find out. All right. Now we have our cake mix. Oh, knew that was going to happen. And our spatula, and we will spatule our cake mix into our pans thusly. I hope. Well, this looks like it's just going to make one, huh? Let's find out. Because I can always pull some out. Yeah, that definitely looks like one. So what I'm doing now is obviously spreading out cake mix in our rectangular pan. This means I will be able to create a large number 4 out of this. I planned on cutting one edge, one long edge, to one shorter rectangle, one longer rectangle, and then piecing it together to form number 4. So it's still my plan for today. I may have to pick up some extra sweets because we're only going to end up with one cake and about 30 people for the party. But do what you do. Do what you can. All right, so there's our cake. So if you've ever done marbling, this is where you could take another cake mix, a chocolate cake mix. Probably could do it with that frosting. I don't want to risk it though. Take a chocolate cake mix and just stir it in with a toothpick or metal stick and swirl around until you get that nice marbling pattern. I love marbled cakes, they're my favorite. Okay, so now the cake is, I don't want to tip it, but it's ready to go. Put it into my preheated oven. And we're off. Hey Siri, set timer 30 minutes. I gotta check to see if that's how long it's gonna take. 35. It's gonna take 35 minutes, so I'm gonna check it at 30. And there you go. So obviously, pretty long broadcast, huh? I don't know if anyone's there, if anyone had shown up. Thank you for being here. Comment, like, and subscribe on everything. Watch all the videos on all the playlists when you have time, which would be now. Just finish this one and go over to the next one. I might try to link to a couple of them within this episode. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Making gluten-free vegan cake. I will frost them later and hope for the best. So have a great Saturday, have a great National Coffee Day, and go vegan. It's at this point that the camera operator hits the little pause button.